Today on the program, Citroën is working on the resurrection of the Deux Chevaux, and the concept is expected for October. Audi is being forced by Europe to stop its best engine. The Freelander is making a big comeback, but it will be electric and Chinese. And finally, if you want a Twingo with an unpronounceable name for 5,000 euros, here is the Wuling Unguang Mini EV. Let's go. Heads up, Citroën is preparing an electric Deux Chevaux. Yes, you heard right, the Deux Chevaux is back. A concept car is expected in October 2026, and it could give a very clear preview of the brand's future small electric car. On the other hand, to see the production version on the road, you'll have to wait as its release isn't expected before 2029. The presentation should take place at the Paris Motor Show from October 12 to 18. Citroën will showcase a new concept car there, and a lot of clues suggest that it could be the announcement of an electric successor to the Deux Chevaux. This direction is embraced by Gilles Vidal, who has been the director of design at Stellantis in Europe since last July. His idea is clear. According to him, the retro-futuristic style is the best way to convince those who are still hesitant to switch to electric. And honestly, it's not absurd. We accept something new more easily when it has the reassuring face of an old acquaintance. This approach is reminiscent of what Renault has done with the 4, 5, and Twingo E-Tech. And that's no coincidence. They were designed by Gilles Vidal back when he was in charge of design at Renault. In short, today at Citroën, he's applying a belief he's apparently held for quite some time. To make people love the future, sometimes it's better to give it a touch of the past. It's also worth remembering that Citroën had already tried a reinterpretation of the 2CV back in 2009. The brand had unveiled the Revolte, a plug-in hybrid concept car based on the DS3. The model incorporated several features from the 2CV, but at the time, the idea never went beyond that stage. This time, the concept expected in October could actually lead to a production model. This future car is expected to compete with the new Renault Twingo and could be the twin of the upcoming Fiat Pandina. Several technical solutions are being studied to achieve this. It could either be a shortened version of the platform already used for the C3 and Grande Panda, or, according to some rumors, a Chinese architecture from Leap Motor. In any case, the chosen platform will need to be flexible and inexpensive, because this future Citroën would be positioned below the C3, whose starting price is around 15,000 euros. And obviously, unsurprisingly, it shouldn't be called 2CV, but without a doubt, that's what it is. Then, there are engines that get the job done calmly and cleanly, like an accountant in a gray shirt. And then, there are those that have real personality. At Audi, the 5-cylinder belongs to that second category. It's one of the engines that has helped build the brand's reputation for nearly 50 years. Except that because of upcoming European regulations, it probably won't be sold in Europe much longer. Yet this engine is a major part of Audi's history. It first appeared in 1976 in the Audi 100 before becoming truly legendary in the 1980s, thanks to the Group B Quattro in rallying. Afterwards, the 5-cylinder engine remained a regular part of the lineup, and even today, this engine powers the current Audi RS3. It produces 400 horsepower and 500 Newtons in the standard versions and in the special competition limited series. It even reached 407 horsepower in the 2022 Performance Edition. The problem is that all of this seems to be coming to an end. Audi recently hinted that the new RS3 Competition Limited is probably the last act for this engine. Production of the engine is expected to stop in the middle of next year. The reason is mainly regulatory and financial. Audi has reportedly decided not to adapt the 5-cylinder turbo to the upcoming Euro 7 standard because it would be too expensive, while the group needs to focus its investments elsewhere. Therefore, this engine will no longer be sold in Europe by the end of 2026. It would remain available a little longer in some other markets with less strict regulations. Then, it would disappear without a direct replacement, and nothing would be planned internally to extend its career. So to sum up, Audi may be about to abandon one of its most iconic engines because future European regulations and the manufacturer's investment choices make it too complicated to keep. And for everyone who loves engines with a real voice, real texture, and real character, it's a bit like finding out the orchestra will go on, but without its best brass section. Next, the Freelander is back. Yes, that name we thought was tucked away in the attic of automotive history is making a return, but not at all in the way we expected. It won't just be a new Land Rover. It will be a brand in its own right, created by JLR and Chery in China, with a very clear mission: to make premium electrified SUVs with a roadster style. The first preview is called Concept 97 in reference to 1997, the year the original Freelander was born. And even without the Land Rover badge, it clearly takes on several visual cues from the brand, with references to the old Freelander and the modern Defender. Notably, you can see that famous diagonal rear pillar that recalls the first model, as well as a rather boxy and muscular design. The production version should remain very close to what we see today, except for the rear hinged doors. Technically, this future model will be based on an 800-volt architecture and will be available with 3 types of powertrains: electric, plug-in hybrid, and electric with a range extender. So we're talking about a broad strategy designed for multiple markets. Inside, the concept introduces a mid-size family SUV with 3 rows and 6 seats, lots of screens, a Qualcomm Snapdragon chip, and the Huawei system with LiDAR. We're clearly no longer dealing with the simple, rugged 4x4s of the past. China will be the first market with production handled locally. But the brand doesn't want to stay limited to the Chinese market. Europe has already been confirmed as a target market. Prototypes have been tested on the continent, and the brand says it's working on specific variants for international markets that comply with Euro NCAP regulations. In short, the recipe is quite simple. Take a well-known British name, inject it with Chinese industrial power, give it a very modern technical base, and turn it into a new family of premium electrified 4x4s. Finally, imagine a Chinese electric car that's so small, so cute, and so outrageously cheap that in Europe it would probably have the same effect as a free buffet in a room full of students. Here is the Wuling Hongguang Mini EV, a tiny trendy city car priced at less than 6,000 euros in China. And if its name doesn't ring any bells, don't worry, you haven't missed anything. The car simply isn't sold in Europe. Yet, this little battery-powered box is a huge success. Over 1.9 million units have been sold in China alone. And the story continues as the city car now gets this 5th generation. The starting price is set at 44,800 yuan, which is about 5,600 euros. But if it arrives in Europe, that figure would rise significantly. And the reason is quite simple. The tariffs imposed by Brussels on Chinese electric cars would obviously change the situation. In its entry-level version, the small Wuling claims a maximum range of 205 km according to the CLTC cycle. And charging from 30 to 80% takes 35 minutes. Under the hood, there's a tiny 40 horsepower motor. And in terms of size, the Wuling stays true to its philosophy: compact, urban, and designed to squeeze through tight spaces. It measures 3.27 meters long, 1.52 meters wide, and 1.58 meters high, with a wheelbase of 2.19 meters. But despite its tiny size, it can accommodate 4 people. For now, this little electric car has just been launched in China, but it could one day arrive in Europe. And if that happens, it would compete with models like the Dacia Spring, the Leap Motor T03, and the BYD Dolphin Surf. Its main weakness here could be a range considered a bit too limited to reassure customers. Unless, of course, its price remains really very attractive. Thank you all for watching this new video. Don't hesitate to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to make sure you don't miss anything. Bye.